1971. In a timber yard on an ordinary industrial estate in Ockham, Surrey, a former logging businessman was building a Formula One car, surrounded by stacks of wood, sawdust, and delivery trucks. There were no gleaming marble headquarters, no army of factory engineers, and no millionaire manufacturer writing blank checks. Just a small workshop, a handful of determined mechanics, and a team owner who believed hard work could beat money. Across Europe, Formula One belonged to giants. Ferrari carried the pride of Italy. BRM represented Britain's engineering establishment. Lotus had Colin Chapman's revolutionary genius. Their factories looked like the future. Ken Tyrrell's operation looked like a place that sold timber. Many inside the paddock saw exactly that. They dismissed Tyrrell as a successful customer team that had finally become too ambitious. Some quietly suggested that building his own chassis would expose how far behind the real manufacturers he actually was. A timber merchant had no business fighting the biggest names in Grand Prix racing. Less than 3 years later, that tiny team had won 2 Formula One World Championships, defeated nearly every factory on the grid, and built one of the greatest racing cars the sport has ever seen. This is the story of the Tyrrell 003. Long before the Tyrrell name appeared on a Formula One car, Kenneth Tyrrell was known for something entirely different. He sold timber. After serving in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War, Tyrrell built a successful timber business in Surrey. The company supplied wood to builders across southern England. It was practical work, demanding work, and it taught him lessons that would shape every racing decision he ever made. Waste nothing. Spend carefully. Never promise more than you can deliver. Unlike many wealthy racing team owners of the era, Tyrrell never inherited a fortune or controlled a giant industrial company. Every pound invested into motorsport came from years of building a legitimate business, one customer at a time. His racing career started modestly during the 1950s, before he realized his greatest strength was organizing talented people. He could recognize ability before everyone else. That gift would become priceless. During the 1960s, Tyrrell helped develop several future Formula One stars, but none proved more important than a quiet Scotsman named Jackie Stewart. Jackie Stewart had grown up in Dumbarton, Scotland, where his family owned a successful garage. Dyslexia made school difficult, but behind the wheel he possessed extraordinary precision. Stewart was not naturally aggressive. Instead, he drove with mechanical sympathy, remarkable consistency, and an ability to understand exactly what a racing car needed. Ken Tyrrell saw that before almost anyone else. While larger teams searched for famous names, Tyrrell invested in people with potential. Drivers trusted him. Mechanics stayed loyal. Engineers knew their opinions mattered. What the establishment did not know was that Tyrrell was quietly building something much stronger than expensive buildings. He was building trust. That foundation would soon prove stronger than concrete. By the end of the 1960s, Ken Tyrrell appeared to have found the perfect partnership. French manufacturer Matra supplied the chassis. Ford supplied the legendary Cosworth DFV V8 engine. Jackie Stewart supplied breathtaking speed. The combination became unstoppable. In 1969, Stewart won 6 Grand Prix and secured the Formula One World Championship. Tyrrell's team defeated Ferrari, Lotus, Brabham, and every major rival, despite operating on a fraction of their budgets. Mission accomplished. Then politics arrived. Matra had been purchased by the aerospace company Simca, which itself had fallen under Chrysler ownership. Chrysler wanted publicity for its own engines, not Ford's. The Ford-Cosworth DFV was widely regarded as the finest Formula One engine in the world. Designed by Keith Duckworth and Mike Costin, the 3-litre V8 produced roughly 430 horsepower while remaining remarkably reliable. Jackie Stewart wanted the DFV, Ken Tyrrell wanted the DFV, Matra wanted Chrysler power. The partnership collapsed. From the outside, many believed Tyrrell had reached the end of the road. Without Matra, he had no Formula One chassis. Without a chassis, Stewart might leave. Without Stewart, sponsors would disappear. The major manufacturers expected Tyrrell to become another forgotten independent team that briefly challenged the establishment before disappearing. They underestimated one man. Instead of accepting defeat, Ken Tyrrell searched for another solution. For the entire 1970 season, Tyrrell entered customer-built March 701 chassis, while secretly preparing something much more important behind closed workshop doors. Very few people knew why. In reality, every race weekend became a moving laboratory. Jackie Stewart gathered information. Mechanics recorded weaknesses. Every failure became another lesson. What the paddock did not know was that somewhere back in Surrey, a completely new Formula One car was beginning to take shape. Its creator had never designed a Grand Prix winner before. That would soon change Formula One forever. The future of Tyrrell racing rested in the hands of a young engineer named Derek Gardner. Unlike Colin Chapman, Gardner was not already famous throughout motorsport. He had worked at Ferguson Research, developing four-wheel drive systems, before joining Harry Ferguson's engineering projects, but he was hardly regarded as Formula One's next superstar. That suited Ken Tyrrell perfectly. While rival teams chased celebrated names, Tyrrell looked for people who solved problems instead of collecting headlines. Gardner understood something fundamental. The fastest racing car was not always the one with the most revolutionary idea. Sometimes the fastest car was simply the one that did everything exceptionally well. His assignment sounded straightforward: design an entirely new Formula One chassis around the Cosworth DFV engine. Gardner refused to chase complexity. Instead, he focused relentlessly on weight distribution, suspension geometry, and making the driver's workload easier over an entire Grand Prix distance. It sounded almost boring. The establishment admired dramatic innovations. Gardner admired efficiency. Because Tyrrell's resources were limited, every component had to justify its existence. If a part added weight without improving performance, it disappeared. If an expensive solution produced only a tiny gain, Gardner looked for a simpler alternative. It was engineering without luxury. According to mechanics who later worked on the project, Gardner spent countless hours discussing small details directly with Jackie Stewart. Stewart's extraordinary sensitivity behind the wheel allowed Gardner to refine problems that instruments of the era could barely measure. That relationship became one of Formula One's greatest strengths. Jackie Stewart could feel what the car wanted. Derek Gardner knew how to build it. Ken Tyrrell knew how to keep both men focused. The Giants still looked at the timber yard and saw a tiny private team. They had no idea they were watching the birth of one of the most successful Formula One cars ever built. When the first Tyrrell chassis appeared late in 1970, it immediately justified Ken Tyrrell's gamble. The Tyrrell 001 made its debut at the Canadian Grand Prix. Jackie Stewart qualified on the front row. That alone stunned the paddock. But mechanical failures forced retirements. The speed was undeniable. The reliability was not. Many teams would have treated that as failure. Ken Tyrrell treated it as free testing. Every broken part was examined, every vibration measured. Every complaint from Stewart became another item on Derek Gardner's notebook. Gardner soon realized the concept itself was correct. The weaknesses were not fundamental design flaws, they were details that could be improved. The result became the Tyrrell 002 and Tyrrell 003. The suspension geometry was refined, cooling was improved, weight distribution became more predictable. The chassis was stronger without becoming unnecessarily heavy. Under the rear bodywork remained the Ford-Cosworth DFV, a naturally aspirated 3-liter V8 producing around 430 horsepower at approximately 10,500 revolutions per minute. It was not the most powerful engine in Formula One, but it was beautifully balanced, dependable, and compact enough to become a structural part of the car itself. Think about what that meant. Instead of carrying the engine inside a heavy supporting frame, Gardner bolted the rear suspension directly onto the engine. The DFV effectively became part of the chassis, saving valuable weight while increasing stiffness. It was simple, it was efficient, it worked. What the establishment did not know was that Tyrrell no longer needed revolutionary ideas. They simply needed everything to function better than everyone else's. The Tyrrell 003 was not built to intimidate people sitting in the grandstands. It was built to make one driver almost impossible to beat. Jackie Stewart later became famous for his smooth driving style, but smooth should never be confused with slow. His greatest weapon was precision. Every steering input was measured, every braking point remained consistent, every gear change protected the machinery. That driving style demanded a racing car that behaved predictably from the first lap to the last. Derek Gardner delivered exactly that. The Tyrrell 003 featured an aluminum monocoque chassis. Instead of relying on a separate frame underneath, the body itself carried the loads generated during braking, acceleration, and cornering. That made the entire structure lighter while remaining exceptionally rigid. The suspension itself used double wishbones at the front and rear, with coil springs and dampers positioned inboard where practical. That reduced unsprung weight, allowing the wheels to follow the surface more effectively. The result was not dramatic, it was measurable. The tires stayed in contact with the circuit longer, grip improved, driver confidence increased, lap times fell. According to period accounts, Stewart often described the Tyrrell as a car that communicated constantly. He could feel small changes in grip before they became major problems. That allowed him to preserve his tires while rivals attacked too early. While other drivers wrestled their cars through long corners, Stewart appeared almost relaxed. Appearances were deceptive. Inside the cockpit, every muscle remained under control. Every movement had purpose. Ken Tyrrell encouraged that philosophy throughout the team. There was no shouting if a mechanic found a better solution. No politics over who received credit. One mechanic later remembered that Tyrrell knew every member of the team personally and expected everyone to eat together after race weekends whenever possible. It sounds like a small detail. In reality, it built extraordinary loyalty. The factories possessed larger budgets. Tyrrell possessed unity. That difference was about to become the most expensive mistake the establishment ever made. The 1971 Formula One season quickly became a demonstration of controlled domination. The Tyrrell 003 did not overwhelm rivals through sheer horsepower. It defeated them by doing every important job slightly better. Jackie Stewart opened the season strongly and immediately established himself as the championship favorite. Victory followed victory. Spain, Monaco, France, Britain, Germany, Canada. Each success strengthened Tyrrell's reputation. The establishment believed championships required enormous factories. What they did not see was that Tyrrell's smaller operation could make decisions in minutes that larger organizations debated for weeks. If Stewart requested a suspension change on Friday evening, Gardner and the mechanics often had it ready before Saturday practice. There were no endless management meetings, no complicated approval chains, just engineers solving problems. That efficiency became a competitive weapon. One of Stewart's greatest performances came at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. More than 14 miles long, lined with forests, blind crests, and unforgiving barriers, the circuit demanded complete concentration for every lap. Stewart mastered it. The Tyrrell remained composed over bumps that unsettled rival machines, allowing Stewart to attack sections where others hesitated. The difference was not spectacular through one corner, it accumulated across hundreds of them. By the end of the race, the advantage looked overwhelming. Nobody inside Ferrari could claim bad luck. Nobody inside BRM could blame weather. The little team from a timber yard was simply better prepared. What Enzo Ferrari had once dismissed as garagisti garage operators, had become the biggest threat to factory prestige. They were no longer surviving, they were controlling Formula One. By the second half of 1971, nobody in the Formula One paddock was laughing anymore. The same people who had dismissed Ken Tyrrell's operation as a temporary success now walked slowly around the white and blue cars during practice, trying to discover what secret they had missed. There was no secret. That frustrated them even more. The Tyrrell 003 was not filled with exotic materials that nobody else could buy. Derek Gardner had simply eliminated unnecessary compromises. Everything had a purpose. Nothing existed for appearance. Jackie Stewart often said the greatest racing cars inspired confidence long before they inspired speed. The Tyrrell did exactly that. Confidence wins races. Consistency wins championships. While rival teams searched for revolutionary breakthroughs between Grand Prix, Tyrrell refined details measured in millimeters. Brake balance, suspension settings, weight distribution. Tiny improvements, huge consequences. By September 1971, the mathematics became impossible to ignore. Jackie Stewart arrived at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, knowing the World Championship could be secured before the final races. Monza was known as the Temple of Speed, long straights, heavy braking zones. Yet the Tyrrell remained competitive because its strength had never been about one spectacular advantage. It had dozens of small ones. Stewart drove another controlled race, collecting the points required to secure his second Formula One World Drivers' Championship. Ken Tyrrell had achieved something almost nobody believed possible. Only 2 years earlier, he had lost the Matra partnership that delivered his first title. Most observers expected his team to disappear. Instead, he built his own constructor from scratch and immediately returned to the top of Formula One. But there was another achievement that mattered just as much. Tyrrell also secured the 1971 Constructors' Championship. Think about what that meant. The best factory teams in Europe, with their enormous budgets, established facilities, and decades of experience, had been beaten by a small independent operation working from a timber yard in Surrey. What Ferrari did not know was that Formula One had changed forever. Money still mattered. Talent mattered more. Championship trophies often make history appear effortless. The reality looked very different. Every victory demanded relentless work from a remarkably small group of people. The mechanics frequently worked late into the night, rebuilding suspension components, checking every fastener, and preparing the cars for the next circuit. Jackie Stewart carried enormous pressure as well. Following the deaths of close friends, including Jochen Rindt in 1970, Stewart became one of Formula One's strongest advocates for improved circuit safety. At a time when many accepted fatal accidents as unavoidable, he argued that drivers should not have to risk unnecessary death simply to compete. Not everyone appreciated that message. History proved Stewart right. His campaigning helped transform Formula One's approach to barriers, medical facilities, rescue procedures, and circuit standards. What many people watching Tyrrell dominate in 1971 did not fully understand was that Stewart was fighting two battles at once, one against the stopwatch, one against complacency. Meanwhile, Ken Tyrrell refused to allow success to change the culture inside the team. Victories were celebrated, then everyone went back to work. The little team remained the little team. That humility became one of its greatest strengths. History often remembers the Tyrrell 003 as the car that won the 1971 World Championship. That is true. It is also incomplete. The 003 kept winning long after 1971 had ended. During the 1972 season, it remained one of Formula One's benchmark machines, adding further Grand Prix victories in the hands of Jackie Stewart and the immensely talented young French driver François Cevert. The Tyrrell 003 refused to become obsolete. Then came 1973. Stewart entered what he had already decided would be his final Formula One season. It became one of the finest campaigns of his career. Stewart claimed his third World Drivers' Championship. Tyrrell also secured another Constructors' Championship, confirming that the success of the timberyard operation had never been an accident. The tiny, independent team had now won 2 Constructors' Championships, 1971 and 1973, and Stewart had delivered 3 drivers' titles for Ken Tyrrell. The achievement transformed Formula One. Private British constructors were no longer viewed as temporary challengers. They became the standard. Teams such as Williams, McLaren, and later Benetton would build upon the same philosophy: small, highly efficient engineering groups capable of defeating manufacturers with vastly greater resources. There was, however, a heartbreaking cost. At the 1973 United States Grand Prix at Watkins Glen, Francois Severt suffered a fatal accident during qualifying. Stewart immediately withdrew from what would have been his 100th and final Grand Prix as a mark of respect for his friend and teammate. There would be no farewell race, no final celebration, only silence. Ken Tyrrell carried that loss for years. Those who worked with him often remembered that, despite the championships and victories, he cared first about the people inside the team. That may have been his greatest achievement. The Tyrrell 003 finished its competitive life with 8 Formula One Grand Prix victories, helping establish one of the most successful periods ever enjoyed by an independent constructor. Today, surviving examples are preserved by museums and private collections as reminders of an era when intelligence, discipline, and teamwork could still overcome overwhelming financial odds. Think back to the beginning. The establishment laughed at a timber merchant building racing cars in a yard surrounded by stacks of wood. They saw an amateur. They saw a privateer. They saw a team that supposedly did not belong. They were wrong. They called it a garage operation. Then it won world championships. They believed great Formula One cars could only come from giant factories. What they did not know was that one of the greatest Grand Prix cars in history was being assembled in the most unlikely place imaginable. Not in a palace of engineering, not in an enormous industrial complex, but behind a timber business in Surrey. That humble workshop changed Formula One forever.